Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is another edition of the Produce Moms Podcast, and I'm Lori. I love hosting this show, and the reason I love hosting this show is because we bring the most amazing people on as our guests, and today is no exception. We have Pamela Riemenschneider, and she is also affectionately known as Pamela R. in the produce industry, and Pamela is a celebrated trade journalist. She has been a catalyst for really everyone in the produce industry to think bigger and more boldly and more innovatively as it relates to how we're going to connect with consumers, how we are going to, lean into these trends that are happening all around us. She's a worldly thinker. She's been a huge catalyst for my professional life. Pamela and I met when the Produce Moms was a little pup. It was still called the Produce Mom. And she was one of the first journalists that paid attention to what I was doing in a unique way, even putting me on one of the covers of a journal that she was formerly working at. And I just have so much respect for her. So when Helena and I were planning the podcast for 2022, we knew that there was one gal in particular that we wanted to bring on the show in January. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome that incredible woman right now. Pamela, we are so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to be a repeat guest. I mean, I was in season one. I feel like I'm old school.
You were like season one, I think within the first 20 episodes. You're going to have to really scroll back, folks, to find Pamela's first episode. But welcome back. Well-deserved and overdue, frankly. We need to have you on more often.
I love doing these kinds of things. As long as I'm not the one who has to host them, I am super happy to come on and talk and really dig into what I really like to do. Talking about that, like you mentioned, the consumer connection of how does the business world of produce capture some of these trends from a faraway viewpoint? Because we've got to look at the big picture and realize, some of these things are changing before your eyes, and maybe you don't realize that the reason that you go to a restaurant and find only 6 things on the menu is because the price of seafood has gone crazy for restaurant operators, or we have to worry about how to get food into consumers' homes with the least complication possible. Right. And this is all fun stuff for me to talk about. So I'm excited to dig into it today.
Well, thank you. We're really glad you're here. So let's tell folks, brief everyone on what you do. Tell them where you work and how Pamela is, in a way, she represents the heart and soul of this industry, because our trade media in agriculture is what keeps us all connected. So Pamela, please explain what you're doing and your role at Blue Book.
So I have been in trade media for the produce industry for the past 16 years, I think. Maybe 17. I'm going on 17, something like that, a long time. And so I focus primarily on consumer trends, like we mentioned. I work for a company called Blue Book Services, which I joined in 2018 to lead the expansion of their media division. Blue Book focuses on business information for the produce industry. So their original trade name was called the Produce Reporter Company. And when my colleague and I took this opportunity to work with Blue Book, the first thing I asked was, do you still own the name, the Produce Reporter? And fortunately they did. And we have a daily newsletter that goes to the produce industry that is focused on the why and how of media. Why did this happen? How does this affect your business? How do you use this information to make better decisions? And part of that for me is Produce with Pamela, which is kind of a multifaceted media I started out with cooking things in my kitchen, new products and things like that. And now I'm more focused on store checks and what I see and trends that I see out in the produce industry and how the produce industry can use that information to move forward and hopefully get people to eat more fruits and vegetables and thereby buy more fruits and vegetables.
Bingo. There it is, a business, folks. So no, I love it. And Produce with Pamela, like if you like the Produce Moms, you're going to love Produce with Pamela because there is so many similarities in, our passions. And there's so many similarities in our lives. Pamela and I both have boys that are almost the exact same age. And it's, so to say we have a lot in common is it's a massive understatement. So with that, Pamela, you have inspired us at the Produce Moms. We keep a tight pulse on what you do. The Blue Book has welcomed me to author editorial features. Like, I really appreciate your role in our operation. And so one thing that we recently read that you did, and it really influenced an annual publication that we have at the Produce Moms. Pamela recently wrote this great article on raspberries and how that commodity is really on the up and up, and you had all the data, and then you had your anecdotal passion that sucks us all in. But as we read that, I thought, you know what, that is so true. We're definitely putting raspberries on our 22 items to try in 2022. That's one of our annual publications. So I want to kind of kick today's show off with you talking about those trends, like maybe elaborate on that raspberry article in particular or anything else. I know that, this show is going to publish in a couple of weeks, but today at Blue Book, you published 5 trends that are, that folks can expect to see in 2022 at grocery retail. So just want to pass the mic to you to talk about trends and what you think is going to be hot and here to stay in 2022.
Well, the raspberry article, and I'm glad you mentioned it, that really took off for me, and I appreciate it because I had a really fantastic opportunity to schools in California, and they were talking about what has happened. And I don't know if people really, until you point it out to them, realize what has happened with raspberries over the last decade. I mean, do you remember when you were a kid and raspberries came in this tiny little clamshell that was 3 ounces, and you got one piece of fruit on maybe like a piece of cake or something, and that was your experience with raspberries?
Yes, I remember, and certainly not year-round availability. No. Like, it was a super luxury item within the produce department.
Yeah, and now if you go into most stores, you're going to see what we call a club store pack, which is huge. It's anywhere from 12 to 18 ounces. They are moving raspberries, and they're moving them quickly. They look great. They taste great. They have incredible shelf life, and all of that is due to variety management and finding varieties that produce a lot, travel well, and taste great for a long time. And so the price points have come down. The pack size has gone up, and the whole reason I wrote that article was to encourage retailers who are not carrying that club store size to carry it, because that made raspberries snackable.
Because you're right.
Before they were like a treat, like one little berry on one parfait, and that's all you got. And now I have no qualms, although I wish they would let me wash them first, with my kids, like mowing down an entire clamshell of berries before we even get out of the store. Yeah. I mean, I pay for it, of course, but
right.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. It's amazing how that category has grown. And you're right that did you call it variety management or so that all takes place at the nursery level or the seed level, where the growers are identifying what are the varieties of raspberries that are going to set us up for success and set the households up for success, because they need that longevity or shelf life. Because I remember when I was growing up, if you were in a household where like that little package of raspberries was bought, you literally had one day to enjoy them, or they would be like absolute mush. So, and living in the Midwest, I didn't see them that often. They just,
if they grew wild, you could eat them.
Right.
I grew up in Missouri, and we had some wild raspberry looking things that I ate. I'm not sure that was the greatest idea. It's better to buy them at the store. But that is one of the trends that I really think finding ways, and this relates to my top trend of the year, and that is easy food. And the whole concept of easy food for us in the produce industry, and for us as people who are trying to push more consumption and push more sales, we have to step back and look at how we approach produce. And I appreciate what you do with your recipes, trying to make it very approachable and very easy. And because everyone is tired, nobody wants to cook. Nobody wants to think about what they want to cook. No one wants to pick a restaurant. I am so tired. I actually bought one of those meal replacement shakes the other day because I just didn't want to decide. And I think that we need to remind consumers that a meal is as easy as a clamshell of berries, a bag of salad, and maybe a rotisserie chicken. You don't have to get any more complicated than that. We don't have to do how to peel an avocado and keep from getting avocado ham, because that's like produce 202. I'm talking produce 101, how to microwave a potato. And that you can microwave a potato. I think people forgot that you can do it that way. You can microwave a sweet potato.
Right.
So making it as easy as possible. And the business part of that is we're seeing a resurgence of take-home meals. Meal kit companies are coming back, because they've had a roller coaster. A lot of them spend a lot of money on marketing and not a lot of money on customer retention. So they give you all these incentives to come join. Please come join us. We'll give you 15 free meals. And then you actually get the bill for having to pay for what it actually costs, and you're out of there. So is the solution for that finding those meal kits at the store rather than having the complicated distribution system try to deliver them? But actually that distribution system is becoming less complicated. All of these delivery services, the subscription boxes for food, companies like Imperfect Foods or Misfits Markets are diversifying and not just fresh produce anymore. They're offering a full line of groceries so you can get all of the food that you need. I mean, even today we had a news release from Walmart. They're expanding their in-house delivery. So they go in your house and stock your fridge for you, from 6 million homes to 30 million homes.
Amazing. I had Walmart deliver groceries right before I recorded this podcast, and I had to haul them from my driveway to my kitchen. And I was like, oh, when can that come to my house? Like, I want them to come right into my kitchen and put it away.
You want it easier.
So we do want it easier. And it's great to hear that that's expanding. And certainly if as the big dogs like Walmart go, that is most definitely a data-driven, calculated, decision. And so goes the industry for sure.
Well, and how long before, Walmart's doing this with their own in-house people, but how long before all the third parties out there, the third-party delivery add-ons that retailers often use because they don't have the in-house capability to do it. How long before they institute things like background checks and things like that to get those services ready and able to go to expand that? Because you can have your thumbprint door lock on your house and all of a sudden you've got your, Shipt or Uber or whatever driver putting your groceries away for you. This is all pushing innovation by necessity, because I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I've got too many other things going on. I got kids in 2 different sports and 2 different locations, and I just don't want to anymore. So that's my easy food spiel right there.
So easy food. And it really actually sounds like kind of a complicated technology advancement for grocery retail, but man, it's going to make the lives of the consumers a lot easier.
Yeah. For me, trend number 2 is a little less related to grocery, but also kind of adjacent to it, is the evolution of restaurants. And what we're seeing going on with restaurants translates into retail, because we're seeing so many food service operations pair up with grocery stores, and you'll have a ghost kitchen at a grocery store where your favorite, dozen restaurants have their banners there, and a commissary kitchen. So that kind of kitchen that, one person's cooking all these different secret recipes and delivering it out of one place, but here are all the names that you're buying from. It's kind of like the man behind the curtain.
Right.
Those are pairing up with retailers, but the whole restaurant evolution has come out of what has happened in the pandemic. I mean,
the nimbleness and the, just the response and resourcefulness and the pivoting that took place as a response to the pandemic, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're seeing things like smaller menus, more focused menus. We just have to dial down the ingredients. Meal kits went through this as well. They used to have like all these crazy specialty mushrooms on a meal kit, and then the order list turned into buttons and bellas. They had to simplify to make things easier. So you'll see, instead of that binder like you see at the Cheesecake Factory at every type of restaurant, you'll have a one-sheeter with 5 things to choose from, and they do those 5 things very well. And they've also adapted their menus because they realize so many people are doing takeout now that they have to find a way to make the food give you the experience you're hoping for when you're not having it plated by an expediter and having it served hot and fresh right to you at the table. You can't have that same experience coming out of the packaging from takeout and eating it 30 minutes later by the time you get home if you're just going to eat it in your car. That's why drive-thrus have thrived during the pandemic, is that food was already optimized to be eaten on the go. And so many other restaurants had to learn how to do that, had to pare down their menus, had to pare down their processes to make it easier.
And that I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the most wonderful, innovative things that I saw from from the stage that we kind of live at professionally with the supply chain is more so grower shipper, at least from the Produce Mom's point of view. I know you kind of cover it all, Pamela, but what the Idaho Potato Commission did in mid to late 2022, I mean, they got on it as soon as they could, but they put together all sorts of optimized recipes and carry out tips to make potatoes, be served their best in a carry out format. Like, they invested at the IPC in that type of marketing and education. And I think I think we're going to continue to see that too, from a grower shipper point of view, like that. And that when the growers and shippers are making those kind of investments in the food service, it is such a sisterhood between food service and retail. So undoubtedly, those trends are going to come alive at grocery retail. But to your point, it sounds like they're not just alive, like there's actual partnerships where there's ghost kitchens and they're utilizing, these collaborative spaces. So are you seeing, and it's probably worth mentioning, Pamela's in one of the greatest markets for food. She lives in Austin, Texas. So from a restaurant point of view or a grocery retail point of view, it's somewhat of a mecca, to be honest. I mean, it's just like, there's so much happening in Austin. So Pamela, are you seeing that right now in grocery retail? Because I haven't seen that here in the Midwest at all, where there's this commissary thing. Is that even something that shoppers will see? Or is that more like, to your point, behind the curtain, ghost kitchen, shoppers won't necessarily see it?
I report about it from some other retailers. I know at least Walmart Canada has partnered with the Ghost Kitchen company to offer more than a dozen name brand restaurants, and they've expanded that concept into some select stores in the US. My local retailer, HEB, has a very strong private label and a very strong brand that resonates with its customers. So the food service that you see at an HEB is going to be HEB branded. However, when you walk into a store and you see them, that they have what's called Meals Simple. And those are all ready to heat and eat, or just ready to eat meals. You will see local restaurant brands represented in some of those noodle companies and other restaurants that were hurting during the pandemic. They partnered with HEB to offer their products on the shelves there. And innovation that probably would have been a long time coming to try to get your foot in the door at a grocery store is a monumental effort on behalf of a brand. I'm sure that you can sympathize with that, having worked with some of those things before. But to have a restaurant brand go into a local grocer, I think that the blessings of the pandemic for some of this was that it made that relationship stronger and made that relationship a little bit easier. So I've seen a little bit of that, but the commissary food I've seen in other markets. It hasn't been in my market yet. And I'd be really interested, but I have seen one of the biggest ghost kitchen brands. They actually have a few food truck operations here in Austin. And one of them we tried, it was Mr. Beast Burger. I don't know if your boys watch Mr. Beast.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes. We have that here in Indianapolis, and amazing concept, right?
It's an amazing concept, but to my point about this whole ghost kitchen being the man behind the curtain thing, if you are expecting a goofy Mr. Beast burger thing with a cup with a guy's face on it or whatever, and you show up at a sketchy food truck in like a mobile phone parking lot, on the weird side of town, that's not what you're getting. So the changing restaurant relationship, I think there's going to be like a divergence. If you just want the food, ghost kitchens are great. If you want the experience, we're going to curate our visits to restaurants. We're going to be intentional about what restaurants we go to and have an experience there. And I want to go there to an experience. And restaurants are, I think, and here's my huge prediction that I feel like, I'm either going to be super wrong or right on it, is reservations, I think, are going to be not just a fine dining thing. It's going to be more of a everyday Joe kind of restaurant, because they've got such constrained labor. They've got constrained hours. They have constrained resources. If you want to have a great experience at a restaurant, you better plan to make a reservation.
That's a great tip. And a great insight. It's more than a tip. That's a great insight.
Yeah. I just experienced this. I took my family to Europe for Christmas to go to some Christmas markets. And we were in a small town in Germany. And if you didn't have a reservation, you weren't eating. Of course, we were in Paris at Christmas time. If you don't have a reservation, you're not eating, or you're eating outside when it's 30 degrees. Ask my kids how much they like that.
Truth.
But I think we're going to see that filter into the US as restaurants really have to focus on what they do best. And if you want a great restaurant experience, expect a wait, expect smaller availability, and expect reservations to become the norm.
Very good. So we've got easy food, this changing restaurant experience. What's next on this list of 5?
Packaging innovations.
Oh, yes.
And this is something I talk about all the time. Is plastic the enemy? And our relationship with plastic. And I feel like during our shortages, I just got to get food, or, people worried about transmission of COVID on food, which no, it doesn't. Right. That we all stopped worrying about plastic, and we all stopped worrying about about packaging and conserving. And I think that it's kind of like a tsunami where it pulls away from the shore, and we're going to see the concern about plastic and packaging and looking for alternatives come just whooshing back at us in the produce industry, especially because it's the most visible thing. If you go into a produce department and everything is packaged, you notice. If you walk into a Trader Joe's, I love Trader Joe's, but everything is encased in plastic. When you go to the wet raw, what they call the wet wall, all of that is in a bag. And that turns certain consumers off. And retailers do have mitigation for it. Like the bags in the produce department in Trader Joe's are compostable, like home compostable. If you bury them in your backyard, they'll break down. So all of that, and I went to the Organic Produce Summit in Monterey, California this summer, and most of the packaging innovation I saw was corrugated. And corrugated, of course, is made out of trees or fiber,
right?
And it breaks down and it performs quite well, but it costs so much. So all of these packaging innovations and packaging concerns, there's a huge up and down balance of, are we going to be able to balance the cost, the effectiveness, and the availability? Frankly, I mean, if you want to do corrugated packaging right now, you're fighting with Amazon over trees, basically. And who's going to win that?
Amazon. Yeah. Every day, Amazon. But the retailer also has to be participatory. This is tough. Folks maybe don't understand the magnitude of what an investment, okay, we're going to let's take one commodity. All right. We'll say, I don't know, Pamela, something
Costco just switched all its apples to paper packaging.
That is a perfect example. Okay. Yeah. So they switched their apples, which were like the 12 count plastic clamshell trays. And those are now in the corrugated boxes. But for grocers or for the growers, the farmers, the grower shippers to make that switch in investment, it was pretty easy for them to do it with Costco because Costco said, like, if you want to sell us apples, this is the packaging that we want. Like, this is what we're going to buy. But for someone to do that without a retailer commitment and try to push it themselves, I mean, that's what I feel like we've seen for the last 10 years. Like, ever since I've been in produce, I mean, gosh, now it's almost 2 decades at this point. But this is not a new novel concept. Like, no one in fresh produce, you got to think, like, we want to protect the earth. The earth is, if farmers had a factory floor, Mother Earth would be it, you know? So it's, that is not, there's not it's, everyone agrees, but there has to, in order for it to be a sustainable switch, there has to be that retailer buy-in.
Yes, there has to. But here's my other point from it. And this comes colored from my recent trip. My friend lives in a village in Germany that has like 5,000 people. There's not very many people there. She had, when she was moving into her house, a 5-page front and back instruction sheet from the garbage and recycling people about how to dispose of every single thing. And every piece of plastic that went in her home was recyclable, easily recyclable. And that would make that.
So some of it is the recycling infrastructure, recycling education in America.
They've got the recycling infrastructure there to make all of these things that have that little arrow on them here that we wish cycle into our recycle bins that often are not, like strawberry clamshells, for example, that giant apple clamshell that you get from Costco, that a lot of the time the municipal recycling facility can't handle it. But imagine if it could. I mean, we could have both. You could have your protection, and, you know, strawberry clamshells are that way for a very good reason. They protect the strawberries. They allow maximum airflow. They keep it fresher. They do so many great things. But then you stick a paper stickum on there, and then it can't go through the recycling because the paper doesn't break down the way it needs to. And now they're working on new labels. Yeah, that will. So I think we're just at the, do we switch everything and make all these grower shippers change their whole processes and do corrugated packaging only to change your mind in 2 years? We can't be jerking back and forth like that.
No, we can't. You're right.
We need to find a way to push our municipal recyclers into easily recycled, and actually accepting all of these things that we thought. I mean, I'm a child of the 90s, right? I came of age in the 90s, and I recycle every single little thing that if it's got that arrow on it, it's a 1 or a 2, I'm sorting it and I'm doing my diligence. And then it's like someone pulled the rug out from under me when I found out most of that stuff didn't actually get recycled. So I want them to fix the recycling system so that we can have the packaging that is the balance of protection and, you know, shelf life, but also is recycled. And then people can buy bulk apples if you want to buy bulk apples. I don't think those are going to go away anytime soon. I'm rambling on this, but you know,
you're not rambling. It's all right. And the thought that packaging can just go away, you know, I'm glad you brought up bulk produce, because that's something that we hear all the time. Like, well, the apple has its own packaging. It's called the skin. Well, yes, yes. However, we know that a lot of shoppers want to buy that bag, and we've seen an increase in consumer interest with packaged products, the convenience, the grab and go model. And not only that, when you think about the labor at grocery retail from a merchandising point of view, it's a heck of a lot easier to merchandise 100 pounds of apples that are in bags versus 100 pounds of bulk apples.
Right. It's an art to stacking apples. And also just think about all of the amazing new varieties of apples that we have on the market. And so many people don't know the difference between, you know, a Cosmic Crisp or a Red Delicious. I actually watched somebody walk past the Cosmic Crisps and buy Red Delicious when they were right next to each other.
You gotta intervene when that happens, Pamela.
I do. I'm like, hey, did you realize HEB has these on special and they're an amazing apple? Please don't
try this.
It's hard not to.
I love it. I know. So packaging innovation for sure. Can't wait to read all of your insights on that in that article. What's the fourth one?
Indoor farming.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That was on the Whole Foods trends list too.
Right. It was.
Yes.
And indoor farming for me, as a business publication, my colleague Greg and I, we watch the billions and billions of dollars. I don't think billions with B's, lots of B's of investment going into indoor farms. If you don't have lettuce grown from an indoor farm in your store right now, you will soon.
You will.
I mean, it's a matter of time before they take over a lot of the shelf space that's going to outdoor farming. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, it's a fresher product. It's getting there closer. It uses less water. And freight is outrageous. If you are not where the lettuce grows, most of the cost of the lettuce is the freight. Right. That's just a fact of life. And for the longest time, freight was a pain, but not an on fire. I can't handle this pain. Because that's what's going on. And right now
it is. Yeah. I mean, the cost of freight is up significantly, double, triple what it was even last year at this time. So yes. And you know what I said, I called out Whole Foods. Hey folks, we put that on our list too, on the Produce Moms 22 items for 2022. It is definitely, it's huge. And I look forward to all of your forthcoming coverage of that because it is such an explosive category and it does represent like a level of investment that, I mean, we've never seen this level of investment or financial backing for any of our sectors. I don't think. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I see as the future of this, like we've got lots of fancy greens coming down the pipeline, and I love fancy greens.
Me too.
But I also am looking forward to CEA berries. If you have not had some of the custom amazing berries that they can grow indoors, you are missing out. There are some strawberries that are out of this world, outrageously delicious. So I'm looking forward to them moving beyond greens and into other categories. And of course, most the seedless cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, those are all grown indoors as well.
And I mean, I've even said that, like here in Indianapolis, like 80 Acres Farms, which has their HQ in Cincinnati, that's probably the one that we see the most often at our grocery retailers. And I've said to Mike, their CEO, I'm like, so do people, is there that much demand for lettuce? Like, help me understand. And of course, Mike's like,
fancy greens are we eating here?
Of course there is, like the true CEOs, but that is a question I still have. Like, is there demand for this, or are we going to, as an industry, do we need to create that demand and excitement around it? And I mean, I don't know. I think that we got to obviously create some more excitement for salads, but I also did see one of the farms up in Maine, and Maine has got to be the one of the hardest pain points as far as transportation goes to try to get really hardy lettuces. They're doing romaine indoors. And that's business, that's dollars, that's volume. And so that's when I really start taking it seriously of this is not just fancy greens. This is the business of produce, is when they start growing romaine and iceberg or something like that indoors. So to see that was great. That's a very good point. All right. So 5 on your list of top 5. What is it?
I had to pick a commodity. I had to pick something that is kind of having a glow up. Right. And mushrooms. I really think mushrooms have been trending for years. And you have them on your list too.
Yes, I do. But I'm with you on this. Yes.
It's out of all of the produce categories to pick as trendy. I really feel like mushrooms are going to continue to gain popularity. I mean, I feel like cauliflower had its day and now we're all kind of like, okay, what's next? Right. But mushrooms are being used in ways that I don't think a lot of people realize. Oyster mushrooms being used as scallops as a scallop replacement. Seafood's expensive, so try
Mushroom is now in oat. We drink a lot of oat milk and use a lot of oat milk here. And I noticed when I was doing my online order for Walmart, I'm like, mushroom oat milk, really? Like this is a thing? It's a thing.
I have been a blender for years, the blending mushrooms into ground meat. But now we're coming out with like amazing flavors. The best thing I tried at a trade show this year was Giorgio Mushrooms had this sriracha and barbecue, two different flavors of shredded mushrooms. And it's a shredded mushroom that's meant for like a sandwich almost, or to put in a Buddha bowl. Kind of like
jackfruit being used for barbecue. Yeah. Okay.
So it was so good. And to see that, and then all of the other weird things, the Whole Foods things that mushrooms are being used for, the teas and the health elixirs and mushroom jerky and mushroom chips and all this stuff. Right. I feel like we're just at the tip of what we can do with mushrooms. And there's so much potential in them.
And it's another commodity that from a regenerative agriculture, like sustainable environment point of view, mushrooms are, I mean, they're the apex, right? I mean, that's about as sustainable of a crop as it comes, is mushrooms. So, cool. I love to hear that that's your number 5, and yes, they're on our list too. So Pamela, when you put things like this together, these top 5 lists, of course, you're immersed in this every day, getting the press releases from every stakeholder in our industry, publishing your columns and your news like you do every single day. But what is the influence of social media on all of this?
I think that the influence of social media has gone from a side business to big business. It's a person's entire career now to push things on social media. And I think we're at like let's talk about TikTok for a minute, because my kids watch TikTok and send funny cat memes to me from there. My husband he's got his own different channels that he's paying attention to. A friend of mine is a content creator. I haven't delved into TikTok because I went into fruits and vegetables TikTok, and it is a wasteland. There's not a lot of great content in there. And once in a while you hit something amazing, like feta pasta, for example, the tomato feta pasta.
Right.
And then when you've got something that's like actually noticeably influenced the sale of cherry tomatoes and feta, like you could see a sales bump in the third week of January.
You did an article on that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, we teamed up with our partners at Nature Suite. We did the blog. And that was like, when we look at our analytics from 2021, there's this odd spike in February. And so you look into it, and sure enough, it's the TikTok pasta recipe that we recreated. Yep.
But for every TikTok pasta, there are 10 mustard watermelons.
Oh God, you're right.
Not even 10. There's like 20 of them.
Oh my God, you're so right.
We need to enlist an army of knowledgeable produce people to get out there and start influencing TikTok, because there's so much garbage on there too. I mean, no, let's not put mustard on watermelon. And I know Stephanie from the Watermelon Board is going to come after me and tell me it's great, but I don't believe you.
We did it. I did it live on TV. And we did a live taste test of the mustard on watermelon, and everyone in the studio was like, that's the nastiest thing I've ever tried. And of course, like me being the lover of all things fruits and vegetables, I was like, come on now, like, it's not that bad. If you really like mustard, you might like it. But, here I'll be a little bit more honest. It is bad. Don't do it. Like, just eat your watermelon. Don't ruin your watermelon with mustard. That is so true. Well, you know what? It is a prime opportunity. So maybe that can be one of our broader goals at the Produce Moms. I mean, we're investing in these Instagram reels, and it's like every time I turn around, there's another platform we got to get into, know, and now I'm like spending my time also researching the metaverse and what does the Produce Mom strategy look like for that? I think that's going to shake up grocery retail in a who knows what kind of way, but undoubtedly the next thing we're going to have to think about from a brand perspective is what's our virtual shopping presence in the metaverse, Right. And so that's
the other thing that I've seen come up related to TikTok, related to Instagram Reels, is the live selling feature of and this is one thing that really got promoted to me as, oh, this is what TikTok can do for fresh produce. We've got a farmer selling their pomegranates in China, and they're doing such a great job of it. And I'm not sure that the US is going to go for it. I could be completely wrong on this, but I've already seen it promoted to me of people live selling things on social media where they're like, this is a limited chance and you can get your, I love the direct to consumer concept and the resurgence of the direct to consumer concept. We've seen some really cool stuff like the peach truck, for example, that hit huge. They're doing the Apple truck now. And
I heard that
there's a whole bunch of Apple companies selling direct to consumers. I mean, there's an opportunity there, but I'm not sure it's hawking it live on TikTok.
Right.
So that's
I think direct to consumer is not going anywhere at all. Like, I mean, I'll make that the +6 on your
right. My honorable mention
6
was potato milk because that's
potato milk. Okay. That's weird. Yeah. Potato vodka, maybe potato milk. I don't know. I'll have to try it. So have you ever made it?
No, I haven't. I just saw it. Somebody just sent me a link to it and I was like, potato milk. I don't know. But you know what? My family drinks like all the alternative milks, and two of our favorites are pea milk and flax milk. So,
okay.
I mean, we're like, no, this is pea milk. And really, I don't, but it's good. It tastes great.
Yeah, I like pea milk. I haven't tried flax milk, but we drink a lot of oat milk here and almond milk and regular dairy milk too. But yeah, interesting. So Pamela, this has been a wonderful discussion. What have we not covered that we need to talk about for what folks can expect in 2022?
I think for 2022, we're going to see people wanting to go back to normal, obviously, and really feeling out what is the new normal and how can we just move on with our lives and manage this. And then just the grocery side of it is there. And I don't want to draw too close of a parallel, but a lot of these folks that work at grocery stores are tired too, just like essential folks in healthcare. They're tired. They need a little grace. They need a little understanding. They need people to be happy and hopefully smiling at the store. But I see them doing everything they can to make this a seamless shopping experience, to minimize the pain points that we had before. Online grocery is going to continue to grow, but I think we need to also keep in mind that it's still maybe 10 to 20% on the highest for a standard grocer of their revenues is online grocery. People are still going into the store. And I think produce is the big catalyst for that. I mean, we know that from our data and insights, and certainly we're on that. We're there with our passion and anecdotal beliefs as well. But I do think produce is a key draw to getting people into those brick and mortar stores. Right. And for me and for my sphere of, just anecdotal stuff, I know a lot of people who have stuck with pickup and they love it and they think it's great. I have a great friend who is a pickup shopper for one of the bigger grocers around here, and she's as busy as can be doing that job. So we're going to see both of those areas grow: the pickup, the online, the delivery, but the thing that the delivery where they come in, the white glove delivery where they bring it on in. yeah. But on the other end of that is real genuine concern from the business side of the produce industry and sticker shock of inflation. Yeah. Things are going to cost more. And part of it is that growers were eating a lot of losses for a long time. And when contract negotiation came up, they had to include higher costs. Their costs are not going down. Transportation is not going down anytime soon. We don't see any relief in the transportation industry coming down the pipeline. So that is going to continue to be a problem. And now that the grower shippers have had a chance to renegotiate some contracts, we're going to see higher prices. And that's going to turn people to different channels of retail as well. I mean, we're seeing discounters like an Aldi or a Lidl on the East Coast those are all growing tremendously. Grocery outlets growing tremendously. And Dollar General is adding produce to 10,000 stores.
That is one to look at. And really CVS too, with what they're doing with their food as medicine initiatives and the offerings they have in their stores. But yeah, Dollar General, didn't they just get some sort of accolade as like one of the best retailers, or am I
something like that? I can't remember.
They got some sort of big accolade like that really, I think, surprised some folks, like one of the best produce retailers or something along those lines. I'll have to look it up, folks, and we'll put it in the show notes if I can find it. But yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'll look for it.
It's one to look for, one to keep your eye on, and shop it if you haven't experienced it yet, or tune into to Produce with Pamela, because I know that you have at least one video of your shopping experience there. So yeah, great. It's amazing how produce is everywhere and how fresh food has made its way into really every format of retail.
Yeah. And it is amazing to see. And it's really just, I thank my lucky stars every day, or at least weekly, that I've found my way into the produce industry and found my way into what I do, because I love what I do. I love talking about fruits and vegetables. I love talking about how to help influence consumer trends and turn people more toward the fresh produce industry, because there's nothing more rewarding out there than fruits and vegetables and something that is truly good for everyone. There are very few things out there in this world that are a good for everyone on every angle of it. And it's so much fun to be in this industry.
Oh, Pamela, that warms my heart. And it's so true. You're such a positive light in this industry, and you educate us all. I'm very thankful for you, personally, professionally, big part of my life. And I'm thankful for that. And so we're going to close out the show today. I want to give you the last word, give folks an opportunity to link in with whatever you do. Let them know what the website is where they can find your content. But Pamela R., she knows what she's talking about, folks. So thanks for being here, Pamela. And you get the last goodbye and final word.
All right. Well, you can find me on producebluebook.com and the Produce Reporter newsletter. And if you're a YouTuber, I'm also at YouTube on Produce with Pamela. I'd love to have you come take a look at some of my videos and leave me some comments.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.